Hey, I'm Leo Ashe, and today, let's prove something that should already be obvious. Donald Trump is a horrible businessman who's committed countless acts of fraud.
The self-proclaimed billionaire whose companies filed for bankruptcy 6 times has been extremely guarded about releasing any information about his financial status. Well, he said he would release them.
I will release my tax returns against my lawyer's wishes. I will absolutely give my return.
But then decided not to.
Well, I'm not releasing the tax returns because, as you know, they're under audit.
But in 2018, the New York Times said that they obtained years of financial data about President Trump and his various organizations. The financial information supposedly revealed that President Trump was deeply in debt for much of the 1980s and 1990s, and that he borrowed lots of money from overseas entities, and that in multiple years he claimed more financial losses than all but 2 other US taxpayers. So how did we get here? Well, the president claims to be a self-made billionaire.
My father gave me a very small loan in 1975, and I built it into a company that's worth many, many billions of dollars. It's not been easy for me. It has not been easy for me. And, you know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. I built that into a massive empire. And I paid my father back that loan.
But that picture might have been made clearer when the New York Times published a Pulitzer Prize-winning article entitled, "Trump Engaged in Suspect Tax Schemes as He Reaped Riches from His Father." The article was a deep dive into the finances of Donald Trump and his father, Fred Trump Sr., as well as the rest of his immediate family. The article made 2 major findings. First, President Trump got a whole lot more than a $1 million loan from his father, Fred Trump, as the president had always claimed.
By age 3, Donald Trump was earning $200,000 a year in today's dollars from his father's empire. He was a millionaire by age 8. In his 40s and 50s, he was receiving more than $5 million a year.
Secondly, President Trump, along with his siblings, engaged in a variety of tax schemes that many tax experts said were illegal. And these schemes included potentially creating sham corporations to disguise gifts from President Trump's parents to himself and his siblings, to just undervaluing several real estate holdings in their parents' estate to avoid paying more taxes.
The New York State Tax Department has confirmed it is investigating a report in the New York Times that President Trump helped his parents dodge millions of dollars in taxes. This new exhaustive report alleges that then-citizen Donald Trump was involved in dubious tax schemes during the 1990s, including instances of outright fraud. And joining us now is one of the journalists who broke this remarkable story, senior writer for the New York Times, David Barstow. David, thank you very much for being with us. You say outright that Donald Trump was part of a fraud. Explain.
Yeah, we use those words, obviously, with great care. And only after, a year and a half of very careful digging and assembling more than 100,000 pages of documents, including over 200 tax returns from inside the Trump family itself. In simple terms, we were able to track that the Trump parents, Fred and Mary Trump, transferred well over $1 billion in wealth to the Trump children. And that, under the 55% estate and gift tax rate at the time, translates to a tax bill of about $550 million.
But they paid a minuscule amount of that.
The tax records that we obtained showed that the Trump children, the family, ultimately paid just about $52 million of that. And so the question is, how do they avoid over $500 million in taxes?
We played this sound at the beginning where Donald Trump, we always like to say, I got a small loan, $1 million, and we can argue whether that's small or not. But his claim is he got $1 million loan from his father, which he paid back with interest, and that's it. And everything else, the rest of his empire, he bootstrapped his way up to massive success. That's not what's in this reporting.
We ultimately were able to document 295 different streams of revenue that Fred Trump established and set up to enrich his son, Donald Trump.
To the tune of $413 million from his father's real estate empire. So Donald Trump, before he was president, got not $1 million, he got $413 million from his father.
Plus another $60 million in loans. So that $1 million loan that he talks about, what we actually were able to document was it's actually $60 million in loans, which in today's dollars would translate to about $140 million.
That he never paid back.
Many of the loans he never paid back. And there's one transaction in particular that we describe where he had run up the tab with Dad, and he used a series of transactions involving one of his buildings to avoid paying Dad back, but in a way that also allowed his father to dodge $13 million in gift taxes and income taxes.
So, quick recap. First, Donald Trump is an incompetent con man who's filed for bankruptcy 6 times and incurred more financial losses than almost anyone in America. Second, far from a self-made man, Donald Trump received roughly $1 billion or more from his father, which means he would actually be wealthier today if he had just put all his money into an index fund rather than throwing it away at stupid business ideas like Trump casinos, Trump steaks, Trump Airlines, Trump University, or Trump the Game.
I wonder what Trump's game is this time.
Trump's got a new game. Trump's got a new deal.
My new game is Trump, the game.
Trump, the game, where you deal for everything you've ever wanted to own. Because it's not whether you win or lose, it's whether you win. Trump, the game, from Milton Bradley.
I think you'll like it.
Lastly, Trump has used illegal tax avoidance schemes to scam America out of at least $500 million in taxes, which could have otherwise gone towards mental health care for Trump supporters who somehow still think he's a genius. But if you think Trump has only screwed banks and the US government, you'd be wrong, because he's also scammed countless small business owners and regular Americans.
An investigation by USA Today finding hundreds in business who accused Trump of not paying everything they were owed, sometimes tying them up in the courts for years.
At Harrah's Casino in Trump Plaza Hotel, the original slot machines sat on bases built by the Friels, Philadelphia cabinet makers, who won a contract for the construction in the 80s, but lost more than $80,000 in the process. Paul Friel says they just never got paid in full.
It absolutely was the beginning of the end.
5 years after finishing the work, the family business out of business.
It hurt right up until the end when my father died 9 years ago. He talked about it a lot. He was not proud to have been involved with Donald Trump.
Donald Trump often points to his business skills as proof he can make America great again. But a new analysis of those business dealings shows Friel's not alone. A USA Today Network special report discovering at least 60 lawsuits, plus hundreds of other liens and judgments over the last 3 decades from people who say Trump and his businesses stiffed them. Not just some of Trump's own lawyers, but a dishwasher, a plumber, waiters and bartenders. Lots of who you might call little guys. People like Michael Deal. Back in the 80s, he delivered to Trump Taj Mahal $100,000 worth of grand pianos. But he says he only received $70,000 when the company refused to pay all of what it owed him. But for Paul Friel, the kicker? He says even after the Trump organization told his dad he did inferior work, they offered more of it if Friel would settle for what he'd already been paid.
If my father's work was really inferior, then why would the Trump organization want him to work for the Trump organization in the future?
Donald Trump is, and has always been, a sociopathic yet witless con man. He's committed so many acts of fraud that, honestly, it's impossible to cover them all in one video. So, instead, check out the link in the description for plenty more evidence. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you really want to piss off Trump, share this video with all of your friends. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'm Leo Ashe. Stay angry.